Hello, Yogesh.
Hi, Mark.
Gonna get started here in a minute. All right. Um, Yogesh, I already put you as an attendee in our meeting minutes.
Yeah, thanks.
So I'm just gonna wait for a couple more people to join. How are things at ARM?
Yeah, Mark, I just got a call. I will get back to your reply in 2 minutes. Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
Hola.
Hank, how are you, Manu?
Hi
Good
there.
morning.
Okay. Hope you're good. Hope well,
Good.
sorry.
I
Hold on one
see
second.
a new person, Risika. I do not recall seeing you here before. Mind
Yes, hi Mark.
introducing yours?
Hi, everyone. So I'm with Equity Labs. I've been working with them on a part-time basis for the last couple months and just recently joined full-time.
Mm-hmm.
So excited to be here. I am mostly helping out with just keeping track of different standards, seeing how we can contribute back to the space. So yeah, I've got some
Okay.
catch up to do with this group, but
Yeah.
I'm sure, yeah, all in good time.
All right, cool. Welcome. Um, so let's see. Okay, so we're gonna get started here. I think we have enough people joining. So as per usual, I'm going to start by dropping the link to minutes into the chat. And uh, mm, before I begin, so what I was hoping to accomplish today is, and please put yourself down in the meeting minutes, so we know you've been here. And the one topic I had for today was uh, key delivery mechanism for horizontal scaling workloads. So just to bring everyone's context window back. Last time we discussed how we're going to create a uh, workload identity delivery system for horizontally scaling workloads. Those are the ones that actually share keys and credentials. The other class would be workloads that generate their own credential signing keys and utilizing attestation to certify them. That will have to be backburnered for now. But the ones that where a workload basically uh, obtains its key from a key store and then gets the credential delivered to it by the control plane is the one that we're going to focus on. And specifically, the original proposal presented at the Montreal IETF was where the workload obtains from the key store the credential signing key directly and then get the credential from the control plane. Last time, I believe we decided that, well, that is certainly possible. A mechanism that appears to be more widely compatible and perhaps also easier to uh, implement by sort of copying existing patterns is where the control plane delivers to the workload before it even starts two things: a public credential and a wrapped credential signing key. So where the control plane does not get access to the actual signing key, just an encrypted version of it. And then the workload obtains from the key store, not the signing key directly, but the unwrapping key with which to then decrypt and start using the credential signing key. So if I'm not saying anything correctly, please interrupt me right away. And what I was then hoping to accomplish today, Artem, you're new here. I guess, would you please introduce yourself so we know who you are?
Hi, so my name is Artem. We just joined the Linux Foundation and Confidential Compute Consortium. I'm working for Modelio.
Mm-hmm.
We are building solution in area of confidential compute, basically doing the confidential cloud. So if you would like, I can also introduce in more details what exactly we are doing. I'm not sure whenever it's the right time and forum, but we'll gladly explain what we are
Okay.
doing. So.
Well, welcome. So we in this working group we have a charter. So there is you can read in the charter all the uh, you know basically everything uh, need to know about what this group is doing. But basically, we're trying to harmonize how confidential workloads get identity with how regular, what we call legacy workloads, get identity, by also incorporating remote attestation of workload into it to make it secure. And we have the charter. We have a number of definitions that we're operating on. We've published a couple of IETF drafts to date, and right now we're working on basically a proposal to deliver workload identity for confidential workloads that's compatible with both WMSI and RATS reference architectures with minimum disruption to each. So if you have any questions, feel free to chime in. So I created this document, which will turn into an IETF draft. It's just easier to deal with Google Docs. Let me share my screen, and I will also drop the link to this document into the chat. So we're going to be um, um, all right. I want to open this, and if you don't have access, request access. I'm going to have my Gmail window open here, so I should be able to grant you access promptly if you don't have access to something. Okay. So let's see. I need to share my screen. As usual, I have to apologize during these meetings because it's just 6 a.m. here on the Pacific Coast, so I'm still booting up a bit. All right, so I just shared my screen, and what I'm hoping to work on today is you can read all the preambles yourself, but here we have this provisioning phase. This is copied straight from the IETF draft. So the provisioning phase is where the workload is effectively passive. Now it's listed here as an actor, but like you'll see that it effectively, the workload is never started. It's just the workload is sort of a placeholder for a destination where the control plane deposits something for the workload to use later. And then in the acquisition phase, that's where the workload actually acquires the ability to, I should say phase, not pace, where the workload acquires the ability to utilize the credential. And we will have to revise these today. And I wanted to, take a pass through this to see if we can change this a little bit, because so let's review first of all what we have, and this is going to have to change a little bit. So in the credential provisioning phase, that's where the so the workload owner is this entity that is basically deciding what credential the workload is going to have. And there are two important collaborators for the workload owner. There is the key store, and that's where it's effectively an HSM or an equivalent. The job of the key store is to sometimes generate keys and be able to release keys based on some access control mechanism. And the credential authority is what is trusted with issuing credentials, and credential authority is effectively later trusted by relying parties. So, by way of review, the workload owner decides what workload identity the workload is going to have, what additional claims perhaps it's going to have. So these are designed to be a generic mechanism, but for Whimsy, it would be an SVID, so an identifier that's the URI. Doesn't have to be in all cases, but we're just basically trying to make it so that it would work with Whimsy as like sort of a primary goal. And then there is a credential key release policy, which again, we're going to have to modify this because we're not going to be releasing a credential key, we'll be releasing the wrapping key. Okay, and the idea is we decide what attestation results the workload needs to be able to present in order for the key store to then subsequently be able to release the key such that only workloads that pass attestation can get access to this key material. So we're going to change the wording a little bit, but again, this is by review of what we had so far. So we had a proposal where it was the credential signing key that is going to be released if workload passed attestation. And by the way, so for those, for a couple of you who are new on this call today, I'm just going to give you a very quick recap. So we're basically saying that in order for workload to have this trustworthy workload identity, it needs to have two pieces of information. One is public and one is secret to the workload. Now, the public portion is the credential. So you can think of that as a WIT, workload identity token from Whimsy, or it can be NX509 certificate, but just the public portion of it. So that one you can include in TLS message exchange. But you need to have both of them in order to be able to sort of effectively prove possession of the public key inside the credential using this other term called the credential signing key. That's secret. All right. So in this proposal, once the stuff in blue is done, then a credential key and a key release policy are created in the key store. Right. So what does a key store do? You can ask the key store, create an asymmetric key pair. Do not give me the private key back. Just keep the private key. Just give me the public portion. And only release the secret key if somebody comes in with evidence that, in this case, attestation results from a trusted verifier. So in this exchange, in step 5, the public portion of the credential key is returned, or some sort of credential key identifier is returned. And then the credential request is also created by the key store. And the reason step 6 goes to the key store is because the idea is the key store, because it has access to this private credential signing key, it can create a CSR, a certificate signing request, or what we call the credential request. And that's returned in step 8. And then with the credential request that is returned in step 8, you turn around and you go to the credential authority, so CA or equivalent, that will create and sign the credential it signs it with the credential authority credential issuance key, which is assumed trusted by the relying party, which is then returned. And then in step 12, the workload credential, or the credential for the workload is given to the workload. So using a traditional mechanism. So, for containers, for Docker containers, you might put it on a volume that a container will mount when it loads first, or it might be a workload, or just effectively hand to the agent where the workload can get it from the Whimsy agent. So here again, I'm familiar. I'm assuming everyone is familiar with the Whimsy reference architecture, so I'm not going over those concepts. Okay, so the changes that we need to make to this flow would have to be that it is the wrapped credential signing key that is returned alongside the credential. So basically, we would need to change it so that there is a wrapping key that is in the key store, and the wrapping key wraps the credential signing key, and that can be handed. That's not a secret piece of information because it's wrapped. So that's handed back to the workload owner, and the workload owner provides the workload not with just the credential, which is again public, but also credential and the wrapped public key. So we'll need to basically change this flow a little bit. In the acquisition phase, so now the workload owner is no longer active. They've already done their job. Workload has access to whatever it needs, but it now needs to talk to the verifier to prove that it is really authorized for the credential signing key, and then needs to go talk to the key store to actually retrieve the signing key. So again, we'll have to make a change to this. Here, first, the workload creates an asymmetric encryption key. And this is such that an outside party can target it with some piece of information that only it would be able to decrypt. So it then generates the evidence. Evidence is, these are my measurements. I'm such a workload. I'm running on this hardware, and I have these bits. I'm running this configuration. So again, standard remote attestation. Then you request attestation from the verifier, which will appraise the evidence in step 4, compute attestation results in step 5. And the attestation results include the public portion of the encryption key. So that is returned in step 6, and in step 7, that is forwarded to the key store. The key store validates the attestation results against the key release policy. It will encrypt. Again, this is where the change is going to have to be made in step 9, right? So here it encrypts the credential key to the wrapping key, to the encryption key from the workload. And we're saying in the new version, it will actually encrypt the wrapping key for the credential signing key, not the signing key directly, and then return that, which the workload then decrypts in step 11. All right, I've been talking for a while. Any comments or questions or anything so far? Manu, does this match your understanding? Like, because you were a proponent of this change.
I think it's great. I think it's great. You summarize it very well because it does open up the possibility of the workload itself generating other things and securing other things. So that's the path.
In that case, I have a question for Yogesh and Hank as our IETF gurus. We have a couple of different ways we can proceed. One is that we will provide 2 different alternatives to IETF. So one would be this, and that is where it's the key, it's the signing key that you retrieve from the key store, and the other one is where it's the wrapped signing key, and that you need to unwrap. Do we go with just one mechanism, or do we propose a couple of different mechanisms? What do you think would be best?
Yogesh, if you want to go first, I'm fine.
Yeah. So remind me, what is the purpose of wrapping key? It would unwrap the credential.
Yeah, right. So in one case, you go to the credential store, and it gives you the credential signing key. Well, like wrapped, so that can be targeted for the trusted execution environment. And the other case, so in the other case, it is just the wrapping key that you retrieve. So and the difference there is in the acquisition phase. The thing that we presented in Montreal is in step 12, from the workload owner to the workload, you provide the credential, just the public portion. In the mechanism we're about to change here is you give the workload both the public credential and a wrapped signing key for the credential. And then the difference there here is instead of getting a wrapped credential key in 10, you already have the wrapped credential key just with a different key. You just get a wrapping key that is encrypted for the workload instance.
And
right?
what would be the use of the wrapping key? How subsequently the wrapping key would be used?
So if here you got back a wrapped signing key, right? Which today you get like under this proposal, you don't get a key at all. But then you would unwrap that signing key inside the workload.
Can I speak to the reason you want this indirection, if you want, is because right now we're just talking about the control plane, and it's assumed that it's some trusted actor that is managing the HSM, that's providing all that stuff. So it doesn't really matter that the key store provide either a wrapping key or the signing key directly, because you already trust that guy. But if you do introduce the wrapping stage, now you open the door to chaining, for instance, where the verifier or the key management, right, that delivers the wrapping key to the I guess it's the attesting the workload. We're not talking about. Well, no, actually, the workload is being attested. Now you enable chaining, where the verifier can itself be a workload running in a confidential computing environment, and you can chain that infinitely. The other property that it gives you, because you have a decoupling of the key management layer, the other thing that this enables is then the workload itself would be able to generate its own keys that it could wrap with the key that it gets from its parent, and then it can encrypt its own thing, and it can have complete privacy of its own information. And so that enables use cases for authority delegation, literally key passing, so that you can do delegation through key passing. So that's the reason. If you don't have that stage, then you cannot know whether the signing key that the workload is receiving could be used by another actor, right? Because another actor is generating that key or is managing it, which is fine in the incremental step that we're taking here from Whimsy, that by default assumes that the node is trustworthy, that the CSP is trustworthy, and all of that good stuff. But if you do introduce that decoupling of key management, then you can enable all the other use cases that will be much more granular in their way to manage authorization. Does that make sense? I think I may have talked about that when I gave the full rundown of our architecture.
Yeah.
It may be somewhere in the video that we recorded.
You know what? And again, this is a question for the IETF gurus. So
they look like different scenarios to me, so they should be treated separately.
So the question for the IETF gurus is what I find a little strange, I guess, about the way IETF documents are written is normally by the time you arrive at an RFC, it makes a variety of recommendations, or not a recommendation, like there is a standard that basically says you do these things. And often what that hides is the sort of the full richness of discussions that led to that alternative being chosen. And then inevitably what happens is people reading this, are left wondering, why was, this path chosen? And then inevitably people who were, in the room when it happened, when the original decision was made, well, can explain to the novices, well, this is why we did all these things, and but that information is lost, and the sort of the Talmudic explanation of the history of decisions is lost. So Manu, one hand, I'm tempted to ask you to write up a paragraph or two explaining why, this, proposed change exists. On the other hand, my question to then Yogesh and Hank is, is this is this something IETF should see in the write-up as part of the proposal? Is this should be commemorated, if this were to ever become an RFC?
Yeah, these are two different ways, and I think as Manu said, it adds additional layers, so it can be a part of a separate section in the same draft. This is an alternatively you can do this
Right.
as well.
Or then I think what I heard Hank say before is you want to keep, individual drafts as focused as possible, right? So are we then talking about, two separate documents that we need to put through IETF for the two different variants?
Not really. I mean, I'm not feeling that way, but maybe I want to understand from Hank why he feels that way.
There was a statement where we had some more options to choose from. This is now basically get workload or decrypt workload that you get and then work with workload. So I think the latter seems to be a superset of the former, and also it's I think the trustee model, right? So which reminds me of a very, very early diagram. Yogesh, you might remember Hannes and I wrote in FOSDEM like last year, I think. It's almost a year ago now. So that is the trustee model, and I think having that in, or it is trustee-ish, having that in is not harmful, especially because I think one option, which is where you get the wrapped key, seems to be a little bit like extra steps of the first model, where you just get the pub key. So to me, it's fine to have both in and ask, are both fine? This is the delta. Would you prefer just one of those? Then you have again a pizza or pommes question, which every kid can decide on. And I think that's a good way to manage a working group. You just give two options and say, do you want to have both or just one of those? And other reasons. And if they're undecided, they get both. So they get the whole menu. And I think that's a good choice. It is not overload. And I think one of the examples, especially with what we call wrapped key here, I think is open source community practice, actually. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, and then correct me if I'm wrong, is we will put both variants in this time around. And Manu, perhaps you'll be so kind to, write a detailed and compelling explanation for why this new variant we're about to create exists. Well, because again, I believe you can defend your point of view better than anybody else can do on your behalf, right? And then we will proceed with publishing both. It may expand a little bit the security consideration section here, because we'll have to do perhaps more threat modeling if I have more than one variant to present, but I think we can handle that.
Yeah, for the record, I'm not. I try to convince some people at the ATF, and I participate in meetings. Personally, I think we are one step ahead of what Whimsy is trying to do, and I respect and I approve and support the trying to make it work with Whimsy, but trying to convince people that we need an extra step for the wrapping key. I'm not going to fight that battle very strongly. So if you guys want to go with the signature key, just do that. We just know, and we explained, and I will write a couple of paragraphs, but I'm not going to fight for it because at the end of the day, as we know, right, we are this TCC. We work from a place of cryptographic verifiability at the chip level. And if we have an opportunity here to create a mechanism that changes that, if we ourselves don't believe in that, then and we are okay with a unverified actor to provide a signing key to a workload that we verified in the first place, and we don't know where that signing key has been and where it could have been, and whether it could be used by somebody else, we shoot ourselves in the foot. And by creating the alternative and just saying, or just telling the ATF, pick whichever you want, I will write the paragraphs, right? So I'll try to make the arguments, but the whimsy guys by default go with we trust the node, we trust everything else. So why don't we trust the CSP, the backplane, the HSM? So we don't need to do that extra step. That's going to be the answer. So I think the CCC should be opinionated about that. If we are not, then fine. This is the way we built our system, but I'm not going to fight that, very hard. This being said, I took the action item. I just wanted this to be on the record. I took the action item. I will write a couple of paragraphs.
Mm-hmm.
But Yogesh and Hank, I think this is a place for us to decide whether, we do believe that confidential computing is inherently worthy of cryptographic chaining in a way that never breaks or doesn't break the hardware security model that we're trying to put in place. Because if we don't know where that signing key has been, if it's not itself in a verified, HSM or verified TEE, then we lose that verifiability.
Yeah, that's an excellent topic. I don't want to derail there, but this form of key attestation is currently under investigation in the context of lamps and rats. And what they call in CA land a HSM is not the thing you might initially think it is. It's literally a 19-inch hardened physical server unit that is specifically protected and does not give you the protected capabilities like, I don't know, or the TE or TPM or whatever shielding unit you might expect to be an HSM would give you. That doesn't mean it's not viable, but it's vastly different. And so I think you are going to this on-chip or on, I don't know, extra chip protected capabilities with seal, unseal, and key storage, and thereby some hardware can give you remote attestation evidence about the keys available and how they are protected via endorsements even. And that's, I think, what you're alluding to. And yeah, that makes a ton of sense. We have a separate cut draft in rats with ARM or Linaro, I forgot. And that is the actual key attestation token for CWT and JWTs, which is more to the TE and CCC side, I think, while the PKIX evidence stuff is more on the ASN1 side and how things are done with CAs, not super surprisingly. So I think there is a Venn diagram of claims, but I also think that the CCC, T, the trust execution environment scenarios might have more and specific ones. And yes, I would say that is complementary work. This key attestation tokens could live nested in our tokens here. Or be conveyed in parallel. But I think this provenance of key material is effectively a basis for trust decisions in the end, and maybe even a chain of custody, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think you had it was you. I think it was you, right, who talked about the Rust nest, right? The nesting of those things. Yeah, and so I think it goes to that, and I think it's something that we should be very opinionated about. What we end up discovering is that I think we all agree that whatever the use case, we want information to be encrypted in as many places as possible. That's the reason we do encryption in use in the CCC, right? And that TEs exist. In that world, in an information space that is encrypted everywhere, the ultimate delegation of authority or access is the passing of the decryption key. So this primitive of verifying something and then agreeing it to passing, to giving it a decryption key so that this attester or this attested workload can then access a subspace of the encrypted information space and can itself get its own keys or keys that can then pass to something else. That is the most foundational primitive for authority delegation across an encrypted information space. And that's what we are touching on here, is that it enables this cascading, this chaining, where every workload, every actor within that chain can have its own set of keys, and it only can access its own set of keys when it, after successful verification by its verifier, and then that can be chained all the way up or all the way down, whatever you want to look at the topology. But to me, this, passing of, symmetric keys, of decryption keys, is the ultimate, delegation of authority delegation mechanism. And we should absorb this and implement this in this trusted workload identity document. And we should try to communicate that to the IETF.
So anyway. I am not entirely sure where this ends up as this story, but I absolutely agree that what we have here is part of that fundamental building block that is the step-by-step rat's nest, so to speak. Yes, absolutely. And I don't want to overload Mark's goals here, or the 6 goals, and it might need a glue document, which I am not entirely certain about. I would not guarantee everything ends up in this place to not overload the TWI mission right now. But it's absolutely connected. I think having a document in the end that is this one step that you can nest and branch, and then suddenly you have that rat's nest that you're talking about, the delegation between layers, and all of that is like it's a proven trail of provenance. Excellent. That's exactly the thinking we are heading towards too. And TWI is an important building block. But again, I'm not entirely sure if it's this document. But so I would not be so confident to say yes here, but yes.
But I appreciate that, Hank, and I think you summarize it very nicely, that it is relevant to the rat's nest. And so, Yogesh, I think what I'm trying to convince ourselves, to convince us, that maybe the only thing that we should submit to the IETF is this, wrapping mechanism. My question to you is why would we suggest otherwise? Because that signing key, again, right? If we want to make sure that this workload can only act, right, after it's been verified, and we're going to the relying party will rely on signed things, right, from that workload. Yeah. If the signing key exists outside of that workload in a floating way without verifiability, how can the relying party know that something signed by that workload actually came from the workload? See what I mean? We are trying to put in place a mechanism that is trustworthy workload identity, and we want the relying party to be able to rely on the signing key, essentially, right, on signing things to prove the possession of that signing key. And yet we would say, hey, it's given by something that's not verified. And so this something that's not verified could leak that key, could sign something else, and now the relying party is fooled again. So that to me is we should clearly have that we should say the separation is to make sure that we at least have a path to get to a place where only the verified workload has access to that signing key. And of course, if it's done with a trusted cloud service provider or trusted node that does the passing of that key, of course we end up in a no better place. But if it's done by something that is itself verified, then we are in a much better place. And that's what I think we should drive towards because of the discussions about rat's nest. And then we know that it touches that, it touches the composition of attestations where multiple workloads or multiple things need to be verified, because that enables that chaining and that delegation of access to cryptographic material and information. So Yogesh, I guess I'm pushing towards you. Why would we want to propose 2 alternatives?
Okay. No, I was thinking that the HSM, whatever you call the key store, if that key store is within the trust boundary, then would we still need that wrapping thingy or not? The owner.
Let me say this, Yogesh. So a couple of points, like actually completely disjoint points. The glue here that I see him talking about is really between what acquisition stage demands versus what the provisioning phase provides, right? So we can literally write one document. I'm not saying we should, but we can say one document that's saying your workload in one case gets a credential and it needs to get its signing key from somewhere from this credential. And in the second case, it says the workload gets a credential and a wrapped signing key, and it just needs to figure out how to unwrap the signing key somewhere. That's like literally the workload side of it by itself, self-contained, which connects it to any control plane so long as the control plane does the thing.
Yeah.
Then we can basically say, well, there are several ways of doing provisioning. Like Manu can write one for HashMesh, and then we can write one for, any other mechanism. But so that's sort of, I would in fact structure the document this way, basically saying, this is what your workload does when it starts up. The second part is that now it sort of escapes me again. But yeah, the important part is the impedance match is really between what provisioning does and what the acquisition does, and we can we can even start with the acquisition phase first, basically saying this is what your workload does when it wakes up. It either gets one or the other. But I am seduced, I guess, by the idea that this is the second part I was going to say, right? And this is what is coming through is. Under the proposal as written, if for some reason, so like look who is setting the key release policy on the key store. It's the workload owner, right? If the workload owner were to put a bad release policy on the signing key, then the signing key leaks. You don't need to attack anything else. You just need to attack the workload owner. The weak signing policy could be, a public S3 bucket, whatever. Poof, your signing key just leaked. Under the other mechanism, you can put very, very tight controls over how that signing key is wrapped. And then that wrapped signing key can just float around freely.
Yeah.
Right? And that is a like in some sense, a stronger guarantee of security, because then you effectively put the reins of power into whoever decides how to generate that wrapped signing key.
You literally decouple the two things, right? There's
Yes.
the workload is equipped with everything it needs, right? Everything has been pushed to where it needs to be, and it's not, there's no attack surface there. Only the workload will be able to get to the stuff it needs after proper verification. And then so I guess it's a decoupling between the provisioning and the acquisition, complete decoupling, and so it could be administered differently, and it can be built completely separately.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
But just one question: if the encryption is happened by the key store, then key store needs to have the public key of the right public key that appears in the workload, right?
No, the key store doesn't need the public key of anything.
No, because how will you encrypt it?
Theoretically.
Encrypt what? Sorry.
Because it is encrypting the credential as per your flow, right? Encrypt credential key.
Oh, no. So there are two. Okay, so let's just be sure. There are actually two different encryption keys we're talking about. The proposal as written does not wrap the public credential signing key at all, right? It sits effectively in the clear inside the key store, that signing key. And what happens here is it's encrypted to the asymmetric encryption key that is generated by the workload for the duration of that workload. So you create the key pair, you attest the public portion of the encryption key, your attestation results included. As a result, the key store can basically target, and that by the way, that asymmetric encryption key needs to exist in either proposal, because you need to be able to target the attested workload. But
Yes,
in the
yes.
other case, we have a separate wrapping key that's just not in this diagram, that
Yeah.
wraps the signing key,
Okay, now I
right?
understood that.
And now
Yeah.
that wrapped signing key doesn't need to live inside the key store, right? It can live anywhere. Right? It just needs to, you just need to be able to obtain the wrapping key for it,
Hmm.
right?
And
And that is, you know, that is, you
I'm
have to,
looking at your document which you just shared, and that wrapping part is not there,
it's
right?
just not
Because
there because we haven't
yeah.
put it in the diagram yet. Yes.
Okay, okay, understood. So
That's what we need to do next.
okay, because this encryption, I'm okay with this part which is there in the document.
Yeah.
That is even better. I think the attestation
Yeah.
result gives the public key to the key store, which then use it to encrypt its credential key to the for the workload. Is
Right.
better model. I like that one. Yeah.
Right. So then the question is, do we go with both or do we go with just one? Because
I mean,
my feeling is just going with one is actually simpler
yeah,
because it
simpler. Yes.
focuses the discussion. It will cut down the threat modeling. It will
Yeah.
probably more than two times as simple to go with one model than it is to go with two.
I'm okay with what you have in the currently in the document. And it's like encrypting the credential based on a key which is coming from the workload as part of the attestation result.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like this approach better because you're bootstrapping your trust based on a key attestation which is coming from a workload.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so we're going to go with that. So we will figure out how to deliver both the credential and the wrapped signing key to the workload.
Yeah.
That's going to be the acquisition. And again, in fact, like Manu, if you want to write up, maybe as a side document, doesn't have to go into an ATF draft, right? But somewhere in the TWI documentation, there has to be basically an example. If you want like HashMesh to be first-class citizen, this is how HashMesh delivers the wrapped signing key to a workload. And then separately, so the impedance match is still between the acquisition and the provisioning. And the provisioning can simply say, look, I'm a workload. I don't know anything about my control plane. Like I do not know what world I just woke up in. But I'm given these two pieces of information: the public credential and a wrapped signing key that is effectively a public blob. And then when I pass attestation, somebody's going to tell me how to unwrap that blob. Make sense?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. And then we'll have to put so I will write this up. We're not gonna bother with this right now, but I will write.
Just to solidify this thought, right? It's very similar if you think about it as a sealing mechanism, but not at the individual chip or platform level, but across, the auto scale, workloads, the horizontally
Right. So
scaling thing.
every workload instance that can provide matching attestation results will in the end receive the same identical signing key bits. Right. So we will have to worry about what happens, how do you roll it if it gets compromised, all that will need to be figured out. Or at least have some recommendations around.
So Mark, just before I wanted to check. So this method, we will have it in the cut down IETF draft, right? Whatever you have in the document today.
Yeah, once we agree on the contents at this level,
Yeah.
and by the way, so we still need to understand what the delivery mechanism is. So let me reiterate. I don't expect everyone to remember everything. So Whimsy told me that their Shenzhen agenda is full and it's only existing work, which is perfectly fine. They also told me that next time they have an interim meeting, they can discuss whatever submission we have. So we do not need IETF for the Whimsy part of it. That leaves us with the question of what do we do for rats? Is this something rats wants to hear? And then when? And this is where, again, Yogesh, Hank, please tell us.
Yeah, we
This
have.
might be, sorry, go ahead, Yogesh.
I think we have an interim coming up for rats. This would be an excellent opportunity to cover this in a February interim for 10 minutes.
Okay,
But
so we can then have, does it have to be a draft or can it be simply a document that
yeah,
I,
a document or a PowerPoint would be good enough. But I would let Hank complete and would like to hear his views as well. So
Yeah, I think it might be a good opportunity to also rekindle visibility for the key attestation token, which is part of that story that Manu was painting, or illustrating. And yeah, the interim is always easier, I think. I am actually not so sure how attendance with ITF 125 will work with the time difference here. But I think that's not our problem. That's a Red's problem. So I think we could have at least a slide deck for the interim, and then maybe a more tangible ID for the meeting when we get early feedback from the interim. And I can talk to Leonardo about the key attestation token if we want to use the opportunity of context proximity to also talk about that again.
if I were interested in reading the key attestation proposal, is it on the RATS IETF page somewhere?
Yeah, I should be on the data tracker. Let me
On
really
the data
quickly
track.
check. Yeah, it should not be expired, but when I say should, it obviously means that I don't know. No, it's updated. It's the EAT-based attestation, key attestation token. It lives. It is a not adopted ID, so it's an individual ID, and we are backburning this for quite a while. I also have a link in my clipboard already, which I wanted to paste here in the chat, which is the trustee Red Hat page, which also already talks about where's the chat? This interface always changes. How is this a thing? Is this notes? How do I chat now? Jesus Christ. So I will find the chat later. So I have a link for the Red Hat Coco trustee model, which I think is a good, also, I think, adjacent information
Yeah.
if when we want to talk, because it's already, I found it, because it's already close to what we're doing. And I think, now this is a list of nature constants from this, Jesus Christ. And so that would be something we can already talk about maybe at the interim. Is there already a time for the interim? I think there's a poll for the interim, but I do not think that there's already a agreed upon time, but I might be wrong. So, and I finally pasted the link of the trustee attestation services.
Yeah, trustee I reviewed, and trustee is certainly pointing in the same direction. I have several issues with it. I actually do not think it's fully compatible. It's sort of in the same spirit, but I think falling short of our aspirations here. But certainly, I do not want to have competing proposals with trustee. I think I need to get us aligned.
Yeah, so maybe what is useful here is to say, and these are the three key differences. We are not doing that. They are doing this. This is basically choose one or the other. We are omitting this. We are adding this. This is obviously just a subset or superset. So this is, I think, important to understand quickly. And in the CAT draft, there's also a PAT. And now the platform attestation token. So now this is also very close to what we were always talking. Like we are binding a workload to a platform. As this key is also the key attestation is bound by the platform, because the platform again is the physical assertion provenance. It's where the evidence or some of the evidence is generated about things that are more ephemeral. In our cases, workloads, or in the key's case, the key material that you are managing. And so that is, I think, again, maybe also nice to know that this exists and that there's some terminology defined there. Maybe it's not great. Maybe we have to improve on that. But I think it's adjacent technology and thereby useful to maybe also bring in context when we have the interim presentation.
Yeah. Okay, so by next time, I'm hoping to have a better write-up. I think what I'm hearing as a consensus is we're going to go for the wrapped signing key option, the one that's not here yet. We're just going to do that one. Manu will write up sort of maybe a justification we can keep somewhere for posterity. And we will maybe Hank, you can help negotiate where this can be presented. I will personally look over the key attestation stuff, and I will see what trustee has to say and if what the delta is, so we can specifically talk to trustee about the delta.
Yeah. That sounds
Mark,
like a real plan.
Hey, Mark. Mark, is it okay if I write a couple of paragraphs in that section and then you can move it wherever
Oh
you
yeah,
want?
just keep change tracking on so I know what your bits are.
Will do.
And yes, absolutely.
Will do.
All right.
Okay, I need to drop off.
With that, we're going to wrap up, and I will see you guys next week.
Wrap up. Good one. Well done.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Be well.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.